This is AJ. Happy Thursday, and I am back again today with a video on my postpartum experience. Postpartum is extremely real, and it's starting to be a conversation that is way more common than it used to be now, but it's still not a conversation that's had enough. So I wanted to give you guys my personal experience with postpartum and some things that helped me, and just kind of give you my experience to let you know that you're not alone and that you could reach out to those you care about. You could reach out to me. I'm always available. Even if you don't know me, I'm here with an ear and a shoulder to cry on at any time. So yeah, let's get started. So to give you guys a rundown, at some point I will give you a more detailed video and description of my whole pregnancy journey, because that's a story in itself. Like, seriously, it's so much. And I still get emotional just thinking about it. So yeah, that's an experience that I would like to share, but it's gonna take me some time to kind of gather my thoughts and get everything together and get some editing software, because I know I'm gonna have to stop the video and cry a few times. So um, I will finally get some editing software. I'm kind of making a decision now between like 5 different ones, so we'll see. I like to try to find the best stuff that's for me at that time. So if I need to expand, I don't need to buy a new software or whatever. So, but yeah, I'll get on that topic. But to give you guys a quick rundown, so we found out we were pregnant, my boyfriend and I, in March. No, in February. And no, it was in March. It was in March. I got pregnant in February. She was conceived in February, rather. So yes, we found out in March, and it was life changing. She was a surprise to us, and we were extremely excited and things of that nature. So, um, we went along and further along, and as time progressed, I started having morning sickness and things of that nature. And then that was all the first trimester, and then it was terrible, and all day at that. Second trimester, that's when I started. They started noticing complications with me, so I was deemed high risk, and I would have to come back every 2 weeks, and then it became weekly. So that was kind of stressful. And then eventually, they a couple times on because they switched it over from every 2 weeks to weekly, because my complications were getting worse. So a few times in between those times, I had been admitted for a few days, but then I've been let go. So they put me on bed rest, and I had to quit my job, which I had just got. So I was irritated with that, but I knew, her safety was what was the most important, and my safety as well. So you guys have to excuse my sniffle, and I'm coming down with like a cold or something that I'm trying to get rid of before it really gets started. So please excuse that. Shortly after, all the visits and whatnot, they admitted me. It was shortly after my birthday. My birthday is towards the end of July, and I would say maybe a week and a half after that, not a full 2 weeks, they had admitted me for the remainder of my pregnancy, basically. Um, they let us go miraculously 5 days before I gave birth, but yeah, that's a whole story. So she was born 10 weeks early, emergency C-section. She was breech and things of that nature. So 2 pounds 3 ounces. And I spoke on this on a previous video, but for the new watchers and the people who don't know me, so with that, I was terrified, completely terrified. We were terrified. So I don't think I noticed that I had postpartum, even if I did. I don't want to say I didn't have it, because at that point I was still in like fight or flight or survival mode. Like, I just wanted to make sure she was okay. I didn't care about anything else. I wanted to make sure she was okay. I was already having slight depressive episodes during my pregnancy. I would have nightmares of my death, and the nightmares ended up turning almost into fantasies. So I would have dreams that I would die, but I was okay with it. I was almost pleased with it in my dream. And I would look down and watch her grow up and things of that nature. And it was really depressing. Um, it freaked me out. And, I spoke to the staff, and they put me on antidepressants that was okay for breastfeeding and pregnancy and whatnot, because they had to make sure it was okay for breastfeeding, because the reason why I was in the hospital so long, she could have been born any day. But again, I'll get on that on another day. So I had taken the antidepressants maybe twice, at the very maximum 3 times, because I didn't want to put any additional chemicals in my body that I wasn't for sure on, that I hadn't done the research on, and if I couldn't find a natural remedy to. I didn't want to, place any chemicals and have it pass the placenta, even though they said it was safe. I didn't know. I wasn't sure, and I didn't feel right taking it. So I kind of took those loosely on my really, really bad days, but then I just stopped completely, because I'm like, if you don't take it on a consistent basis, what good does it do anyway? So I stopped taking them, and I just kind of coped. So fast forward to after she was born, and she was in NICU for almost 2 months. So throughout that time, it's like, I'm just going. I'm trying to heal. I had a C-section, but the way they did it, I got the bikini cut on the outside, which is horizontal, but they gave me a classical cut in the inside, so that's vertical. And so it was extremely difficult for me to, one, get used to that, because I was pretty small in my pregnancy, and for most of my pregnancy. And before then, I really loved my stomach. And that was one of my prized possessions, or don't mind to know, but prized possessions or favorite part of myself. I had a nice little 4 to 6 pack, somewhere in between. But I had no problems rocking a crop top. Like, half of my wardrobe was crop tops. So yeah, that was my thing. So, after that, it's like, one, I'm still healing, and they're making me do all these exercises like immediately after waking up and things of that nature. It was rough. And taking all the meds and whatnot, it was rough. But, we made it happen, and I was super depressed when they were getting ready to discharge me. I'm like, I don't think I'm ready to leave, and I don't want to be far from my baby. So can you guys like extend it? Because again, I don't think I'm ready as far as my C-section scar healing and me getting up and walking around and things of that nature, because I was struggling. Okay. So I cried and begged and spoke to management and all types of people, and they told me that they had additional rooms on another floor, but they were actually they were allowed to do it before, but they were kind of tightening, buckling down on that, because liability issues and billing issues and things of that nature. So I did have to get discharged, and that's when I started really feeling the onset of it, but I was still partially in survival mode, because I was depressed that I had to keep going to NICU and then leaving without my child, like, and knowing that she was struggling. So I would be up there almost all day, every day. I would come home and take a nap or sleep or something, and then try to relax, pump a little bit, and then go back up there. But I would go up there multiple times a day and whatnot. So But as time progressed in the NICU, at first I'm like, okay. And they say the first 5 days are the most important, because that's when her viability is in question. I think they said the first 3 days are the hardest, and then if they make it past the 5 day hump, their chances of survival skyrocket, and then it kind of plateaus. So, um, those first 5 days were hard, very hard, but it was a well deserved victory. So we were all pretty excited. But as time progressed, it's like all these issues that she was having. Luckily, she didn't have anything serious like brain bleeds and deafness or anything of that nature. Thank God. That was a blessing in itself. But she did have chronic lung disease. She does have chronic lung disease, because that's not something that goes away. We just have to kind of wait and see what that manifests into when she gets older. So it could turn into asthma if she gets older, or it could just lie dormant. So we'll see. Hopefully it lies dormant. And yeah, so she had that, and she had a few other issues. But again, I'll talk about that more in depth in another video, because that's going to be longer. um, but yeah, so with all of her health issues and the elapsed time, it's like, when is my baby coming home? Like, it was just so much. And it's like, okay, we already went through all of this stuff during the pregnancy, and you know her life was at risk the almost from the second trimester on. And and she proved everybody wrong, and she defied all odds. um but it's like, okay, when is my baby coming home? Like, the NICU is stressful. It is stressful. And I will say, we went to Beaumont Hospital, Beaumont Royal Oak, and I was very adamant on what hospital I wanted to give birth at, because my cousin had given birth to her two sons there, and I just fell in love with it then, and that was years ago, years ago. So, um, I don't know why I was so adamant on it, but they ended up having one of the best NICUs in the area. So I feel like that was just a sign from God. Like, that was intuition right there, and it needed to happen that way. So their NICU was amazing and wonderful, and they took great care of her. I did have some complaints. I do have my complaints, but you know everybody, there are pros and cons with everywhere you go. And ultimately, my problem was that nobody pays attention to her like her parents will, or gives her that love like we would give her. So and that's anywhere basically. So especially any institution or something of that nature. So yeah, I was pretty depressed then, and it would get worse throughout the days. And it's like, I would have crazy nightmares. My fears were getting the best of me, and it was just, it was stressful, to say the least. So, and then trying to heal, but my body wasn't healing in a timely manner because I wasn't paying attention to myself. I was all about her. So it took me quite a while. And then I found out I had chronic endometriosis. Endometriosis. um, but yeah, so that was, kind of, that came from left field for me. And they gave me a warning that, we can't have any more spontaneous children. It would be best to plan this out, because I will be high risk from the beginning. And I would have to, there would be procedures need to be taken and things of that nature. So that depressed me a lot as well. And so we started talking about birth control, and I was going to get back on the pill. I had been on the pill for all these years, and that was just my thing. I was on the pill, never tried anything else. But they were really adamant on giving me the depot shot. They were like, it'll, convenience. That's what they sold me. That's how they sold me. It was the convenience factor, because it's like, oh, I don't have to put an alarm on my phone every day or double up if I miss a day, or I don't have to carry that in my purse and then remember to switch it out of my purses when I switch purses. And if I'm taking a nap, wake up and take that. Like, it's the convenience. So you know I got the depot shot, and not only, well, let me kind of back up. Before I got the depot shot, she came home. That was in November. No, that was in October. It was a few days before Halloween. I think it was October 28th to be exact. And I was so happy because she was able to wear her Halloween costume. And this lady who had a daughter in the NICU previously came and made little costumes and stuff and gave her Hershey's Kiss costume. And it was so cute. And she had another one. It was like a princess costume. It was purple with a little wand. And it was so adorable. And they don't you just place them on top of the babies because they're so, small and delicate and you don't want to hurt them or whatnot. So it was so cute. Oh my goodness. I wish I had editing software. Maybe I'll see how I can add those pictures, or if I can add them at the end of the video so you guys can see. But yeah. So she came home, and that was like a relief. It was so much weight off my shoulders. I was so happy. But then one issue that we really had was that she was colicky. She had colic, and the nurses at the hospital almost refused to acknowledge it. And that drove me up the wall. I brought it up so many times. I'm like, why is she crying? And she would crunch her stomach up and ball up and just belt out these screams. And I'm like, no, something is wrong with my baby. No, that's not normal. That's not a normal cry. I know this. Trust her mother's intuition if anybody's. And they're like, oh no, she's okay, she's just upset. No, that's a different cry. I know. So we took her to her pediatrician, and he's amazing. And they told us that she had colic. And I was like, so when I looked it up, I was like, this makes all the sense. Why didn't the nurses acknowledge this? They could have simply told me that. And we could have worked on a resolution, but they failed to acknowledge it. And whatever. Whatever. I still feel some type of way about it, but as you can see, whatever. So that was that. And she had colic, and I felt like it was my fault because I didn't advocate for her hard enough. I still wanted to be respectful. I was very aggressive with what I said and how many times I brought it up, but I was still dismissed so many times. And I felt like this is partially my fault because I should have cut up in there. And I'm like, what would that have done? But I don't know. It could have made a difference. It could have not, but I didn't. So, later on, I've come to accept that like I do now. But back then it was it's my fault. So that was, weighing down on me. And then on top of that, just seeing her suffer so much, she wouldn't sleep. She would not lay down in a bassinet or a crib or anything. She would only go to sleep if we held her. So, what did I do? I held her every night. I just went to sleep holding her. And, they say don't co-sleep, but I did. And, some parents get shamed for that. If you shame me for it, hey, whatever. But you do what's best for your children. And I did what's best for mine. And I co-slept. So, I made sure we were safe and in a good position to where she wouldn't fall or anything of that nature. And I'm a light sleeper. I'm a very light sleeper. Even in my exhausted times, I'm a light sleeper. So, I held her every night, and that was just how we got over it. Because she needed to kind of be balled up. She could not sleep on her back at all. She's just now being able to sleep on her back. I want to say she's 18 months now. I want to say about 5 months ago, she's just now being able to sleep on her back, without jumping and, getting upset every night again. So, yeah. I think she was traumatized out of NICU and, having colic and being on her back and not being tended to properly. But that's what it was. And so with that, I had to sleep lightly and I had to make sure I slept lightly. So it was just stress. I was on high alert all of the time. All of the time. And then afterwards, was shortly, actually, she was still colicky during this. She would have these episodes where she would have a buildup of mucus, and it would come up in her throat, and we would have to use the nose Frida to get the mucus out of her throat because it would be so sticky and obviously mucusy, and uh, I want to say coagulated, but I don't know if I'm using it in the right context. But it was right there in her throat, and we use the nose Frida, and that's why I advocate for the nose Frida so much. That thing has saved our daughter's life on more than one occasion because that's happened several times. And your nose and throat are connected, so her nose would also be blocked. She wouldn't be able to breathe. She would have episodes where she couldn't breathe because of the mucus buildup. So it was stressful, okay? High alert 24/7, and it was just a lot going on. But she was our miracle baby, and she was such a blessing, and just seeing her smile and growing up and things of that nature, it was beautiful. But then, all of this was going on before January. So in January, I think it was like the 2nd or the 3rd, I got my first depot shot. By the end of January, I had gained at least 8 to 10 pounds. And I'm like, okay, they said you'll gain a few pounds. So, just work on losing it or, maintaining it or whatnot. Because after I had her, I pretty much, with the little exception of a pudge or whatnot, I pretty much snapped back to my normal size. But that depot shot blew me up. And so January, about 8 to 10 pounds. February, I gained some more. And I think it was between February and March where I had a heart attack scare. And well, in February, it started with the headaches. I would have constant headaches, and they were cluster headaches. And so they did a scan on me to see if I was having migraines or if I had anything going on serious in my head, and they couldn't find anything. So essentially, I was just taking a leave and Excedrin and calling it a day. But I never attributed it to the depot shot. I did attribute it to stress though, because stress can deteriorate the body quickly. So it was probably a combination of the two. But so I had that going on, and then February, March-ish is when I had my heart attack scare, and I was never, well, I can't say never, but I was extremely terrified. And I just didn't know what was going on with my health. And, I went to the ER and I ended up leaving. They checked me slightly. They checked my heart. And after I checked in, and then they sent me back to the waiting room. And I was there for almost 3 hours and still hadn't been seen. So I was like, if that initial scan was all right, then forget it. Clearly I didn't have a heart attack, or it wasn't that serious, or whatever the case may have been. And I was like, I'll come back later or another day. And then I never went back. I left and never went back for that reason. So I've also had health issues in the past with my heart. So, that caused a little alarm, but not enough for me to go back, obviously, because that wasn't a priority at the time. My head wasn't right. And then, all women have, my situation is unique, but it's also not unique. A lot of women have premature babies. A lot of women and parents, but I'm going to speak from the woman's aspect of postpartum today. A lot of women have, children with colic. A lot of women, this might be your second or third or fourth child, and you have other children to tend to on top of having a sick or fragile child. And then on top of that, it was like my health was deteriorating, and I was gaining weight, gaining massive amounts of weight, and I was looking in the mirror like, who are you? Like, and then you have to make that transition, especially with your first child. This was a transition that I struggled with highly. And I still kind of struggle with it. You know, you essentially you're used to being selfish, right? Before you have your first child, you're selfish and you take care of you and maybe some other adults or nieces, nephews and things of that nature, but your main focus is you, yourself. So I used to spend all the time getting cute, getting ready, picking out my outfits, all that stuff. It was times where I wouldn't take a shower for like a week. And I would look and I'm like, who am I? Who am I? Like, what am I doing here? Like, I didn't recognize myself. I would have really bad mood swings. I would have daydreams about my death, and I would worry extremely rough hard about Naomi and her well-being. Um, and it was just like, am I failing? Am I doing well? And then on top of that, this was 2017 when the flu season was running rampant. It was one of the worst years, and they had a lot of deaths going on with the flu season because I think it was a new strain that was out or something. And so we were getting pushback from people because, especially me, I didn't care. I did not care. I was adamant on, if you did not have a flu shot, you are not coming around Naomi, period. Um, and, we got some pushback from it, but I stand by it to this day because our main concern was our daughter and her safety and her health. So it was some pushback going on. Then I had some issues within my family that I was not addressing. I was holding grudges and things of that nature. Um, and it's like my support system wasn't who I thought my support system was going to be. So I had to readjust that. And, I realized some people were only there when I was ready to party and turn up and all this stuff. But now that I'm a parent and I'm not about that life anymore, for the most part, for the most part, then they weren't around. And even though they would, like, throughout the pregnancy or when they found out, it's like, oh yeah, that's gonna be my niece, nephew, or before we found out what she was, clearly when I announced the pregnancy, but that's gonna be my niece or nephew. I'm gonna be auntie, uncle, and yada yada yada. And then it's like, baby shower. Oh, where were you? You weren't there. And and at the birth or the entire time in the hospital, this was life or death for my daughter. And a lot of people who claimed to have been there was not there. So I was holding extreme grudges, and it was eating me up inside. So all of that, and then on top of that, I'm not paying attention to myself. I'm barely eating, but I'm trying to make enough to pump. Also, that's hard. Breastfeeding, they don't tell you. Like, breast is best. First of all, breast is best. And I stand by that. Even on formula, on the side of formula, it says that they recommend that you breastfeed. Nothing equates to breast milk, period. I don't care what studies you see that are backed by these formula companies, because they're not unbiased. So breast is best. And I tried to breastfeed for as long as I could. But between the postpartum and, my self-image and the neglect I was giving myself and suffering in silence and the grudges I was holding and just the heavy amounts of stress, it was hard on me producing milk. And the exhaustion, I forgot to mention that because all new parents face exhaustion. So that was hard on me. And eventually we switched her over to formula, and I was so upset. I felt like a bad parent. And, plenty of kids survive and thrive on formula. So, but for my child, I wanted to breastfeed, but I breastfed enough to get her out of NICU and a little afterwards. And that was a victory in itself. And I needed to celebrate that. So, But I didn't at the time. So we got her on Similac Neosure, because that's like a preemie formula, and she was on that for a while, and then we swapped her out and whatnot. But my self image was trash. Like, I was like, who is this ugly fat girl in the mirror? And my dude would try to amp me up and be like, oh, you're beautiful, all this stuff, and give me compliments, and he was so sweet, but it didn't do much for me. It would just roll off my shoulder, because it's like, this is my self image. You may see me some way, but I see me as what? Like, I don't even recognize myself. And so you realize, like, this is trash. Like, I don't know. um so I wanted to bring up some points. My post One thing I did want to clarify, it lasted. Don't think postpartum is just like a short-term thing either. It could last for, I believe, over a year. Mine lasted for about a year. Actually a little over a year. So yes, I'm just now getting over postpartum, and I would say November, like mid-November. It was real, and I had to sit in the mirror, and I had to tell myself affirmations every single day, and I had to amp myself up, and I had to let go of the anger and the hurt and the grudges. And now when I say let go, I mean release all the negativity inside me, but that doesn't mean be stupid and place myself in the same situation I was in before, because I learned my lesson from that stuff. But I definitely had to let go of the grudges, and had to heal, and had to get off the depot shot. So to continue on with that story, that was my first depot shot. And in March 29th is when I had to go get my second shot. That was my appointment. And when I went to the OB, I told them, like, I'm having issues, and I had like a heart attack scare, like, and also I was bleeding every day, every day, every day. And it was, that alone was like from January to March 29th. And when I say that was stressful, I just woke up angry, like, and exhausted, like, what the again? Like, every day, will it stop? Like, and no, it didn't. So, I expressed my concerns to the nurse, and she was like, just get a second shot. The first shot, you might have those symptoms, and then the second shot, it'll level out. By the third shot, it'll be gone. So I'm like, or I could just get my pills. Like, and she's like, no, trust me, yada yada yada. I shouldn't have trusted her, but I did, and I got the second shot. So that didn't wear out until June, and I continued to bleed every day, every single day. And even after my second shot wore off in June, I still bled every single day. I did not stop bleeding until mid-September, shortly after her first birthday. So it was rough. And, I'm going to put like a warning on here, like, this conversation gets a little graphic, because I know guys are like, whatever, but I'm mostly speaking to the ladies, and we understand each other. Like, I'm not about to censor myself because I think some guys are watching, or whatever the case may be. Like, y'all need to hear what really went on, like, and make the most informed decision for yourself. And, I want you to know what complications happen with us all. So I refuse to get the double shot ever again. With the headaches and the mood swings and the weight gain. And I was still gaining weight after I got off the shot. And finally, because I just weaned myself, I was like, I don't want anything. Like, just let my system clear itself from all these excess hormones. And then, we'll go from there. And a few months later, That's when I got on the pill. And literally the first day I took it, I stopped bleeding. And I was like, are you serious? Like, so I don't like the chemicals and things of that nature. So I took it for a month, and then I stopped for a while and went cold turkey. And then now, I take it, but I make sure that my mood is okay, that I'm feeling okay, that my head is okay, and that my body is responding in a proper manner. As women, we do a lot as far as, birth control is on us for the most part. If we could double up and use condoms and things of that nature too. But, you know, most of the responsibility of birth control relies on us. We have to get the shot. We have to take the pills. We have to get the patch looking like nicotine fiends. Like, it's a lot. And, it just make the best decision for what works well for your body and you, because that's what matters the most. And I didn't want to take Mirena. They were pushing that as well. But I have a relative who took Mirena and was having pseudo tumors in her head. And a pseudo tumor is essentially a false tumor, but you have all the symptoms of a tumor in your head. She would suffer from temporary blindness and things of that nature. So I was not trying to go down that road. Plus, Mirena is a little long term, and I don't want copper in my body. So, yeah, I opted out of that. The depression, I suffered in silence for a long time, and I don't want other women suffering in silence. And although I did suffer in silence for so long, I was a part of mommy groups, and these groups helped me out so much. These are some beautiful, wonderful women who are hilarious and come from all walks of life, and they are so supportive. And I would just read their stories and read their scenarios and listen to their testimonies and things of that nature, and they lifted me up like they still don't know. And shouts out to the TSS ladies. You guys really made the biggest difference for me personally. And, the other mommies that I knew, we would talk and we would check up on each other and, vent a little bit. And although I never, cried out and was like, girl, I'm depressed. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And that's another thing about the depression. You don't know what you're doing. None of us know what we're doing at first. Like, but you have a sense, and you have to follow your sense and your intuition as a parent. You know your baby the best. You get those signals, and you take them and you handle them as you feel fit. So as long as it's, ethically and morally correct, and you're not placing harm on that child or yourself. But yeah, so don't suffer in silence. Reach out to somebody, anybody. Mommy groups really help. You can go on Facebook and search for mommy groups. There are some that meet up with you guys, or some that are just strictly online, or whatever the case may be. But you need to reach out to somebody, because postpartum depression is depression. People have gone to extremes because they didn't seek help, and they didn't know what to do with postpartum. They those beautiful babies, and it's just it's hard. I'm gonna wrap this up because this is going on 40 minutes, and I just got a notification saying that my storage or something was going on, so I only have a few minutes. One thing I would say is that nobody, although there are support groups and systems, nobody can get you out of postpartum. Nobody can get you out of depression except yourself. You have to open your mind. You have to look yourself in the eye. And yes, it may get worse before it gets better. But you have to realize that you have to get up. You have to look in the mirror and be like, I am beautiful. I am going to do this. I am an awesome mother. I am a great role model. I am doing what's best for myself and my child. I'm taking care of myself. Get up and take that shower. Like, find a way. Have somebody come and help you. Ask for help. Ask for help. If you need it, ask for it. And I know with people switch up when you have a baby, and they tell you a lot. They talk a lot of the game, when you're pregnant, like, oh, I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna do this and yada yada yada, and it's gonna be so cool. And if you need any help, I'm here. People, some people just talk to talk, and some people, life gets in the way. We all, life doesn't stop, time doesn't stop. So, everybody has their own things going on in life, and just keep that in mind before you hold a grudge against somebody. But, also keep in mind, if you feel like you want to hold a grudge against somebody, that, holding anger and resentment in your heart is going to hurt you. And it's physically, mentally, and spiritually and emotionally. All facets is going to hurt you. So you can let go of that person and love them from a distance, but don't set yourself up for failure in the future. But yes, look in the mirror, give yourself affirmations every day, and just realize that you are beautiful. You're a wonderful mother. Whether you have the support system that you anticipated or not, you're doing the damn thing. You are a great mother, and you'll get it done. And if you need any help, reach out to other mothers, because they understand. They really do. And I thought that before I had a child, I was like, oh, I will understand how a parent feels and yada, yada, yada. And if I was a parent, blah, blah, blah. And people would be like, nah, girl, nah. And I'm like, come on now. I have a cat. Like, and no offense to pet parents. I get it. Because like I said, I had a cat. But it's different when you give birth to a human child. Like, it's different. Or if you adopt a human child, or if you're the guardian or a parent of a child, it's different. It's a different kind of love there, and it's a different kind of responsibility there. So just know that we're all trying to it's all trial and error in life. But you got to take care of yourself. You got to eat, you got to sleep, you got to relax. Sometimes you just got to get out of the house, take a walk around the corner if you need to, take a drive and listen to some music. Just look in the mirror, give yourself affirmations every day. That's what you need to do, to kind of give yourself the confidence that you need back, and make sure you take that time out. It's so hard to do. It's so hard to do, but you need to do it, even if it's 2 minutes a day. 2 minutes. Master those 2 minutes and make the best of it. Turn that 2 minutes into 5 one day, and then 10 one day, and then you got an hour. Like, just make sure that you have that time, and you love yourself, and tell yourself you love yourself. Look in the mirror after you're done watching this video, if you're going through this struggle right now, and be like, I love you. And even if you're not going through the struggle, still look in the mirror and tell yourself you're beautiful. Like, I'm beautiful. I love me. I'm amazing. I'm an amazing mother. Like, give yourself that. And sometimes speaking in third person helps, by the way. If you need to, because we treat our friends. This is gonna be. I'm divulging a little bit. But this is gonna be in another topic. But we treat other people better than we treat ourselves. So pretend like you're another person and give yourself some outside advice and some outside words of encouragement and love. But this video is getting long. It's gotten long. So let me see and make sure I hit all my points. And yeah, that's it. So I just want to kind of help you guys out. Hopefully this helps somebody out. And be safe. Stay blessed. Love you guys. Mwah. And be wonderful parents. Raise wonderful children. Ciao.